Now let us see some more advanced features of data provider, right, in TestNG. So what I'm gonna do, I'll gonna add a class over here and give it a name as data providers, right. I'll be keeping all my data providers inside one class now, right. So let's see how we're gonna work. Let's say I have a data provider that says public object array, and I can make it static. Public static object array get data, right? And this is at the rate data provider, right? I can also assign a name to my data provider, like I can say name equal to uh, dp1, right? That is data provider 1, right? And I'll import it. Now let us create an object array. Object array data equal to new object array. Let us create an object and for 2 rows and 2 columns, let's say, and it should return data, right. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add some data to this 2 rows and 2 columns, and let's say we are adding a username and password. So the username is Raman and the password will be on the second column. So this is the password, and now I'm gonna take the second set of data. So I'll say first row and 0 column, so it should be Rahul and some data, right. If I want to read the data from this data provider, I need a test annotation. So I've created a method public void test data, and here I'll be telling at the rate test. I'll be adding at the rate test over here. Through TestNG we need to import it, and I'll say data provider equal to dp1. So I can also write the name over here for the data provider, and if I let's say print username, okay, we need to add 2 arguments based on the columns and password, right. So I can say username plus password, right. When I save this and run this, you're gonna see both set of data has been executed, right. So far we were doing it without this name variable. Now we are doing it with the help of the name variable. We were just passing, initially we were just passing the get data method over here, but now we are passing the name of this data provider, right. Now what is the benefit of doing it? Let's say I don't want to keep my test over here. I want to keep all the tests inside a different file. So different file as in I create a new class and name it as login test, right. Okay, login test already exists, so I can say new login test, right. And inside it I just cut this method from here, the test is from here, and I'll just paste it over here, right. Now I can either do one thing. I can just extend this data provider class over here. Right now, what if I don't want to extend it? I just want that this method should actually take the data provider from this particular DP1 like data provider. Right now, I can do one thing. There's another thing that I can write over here. If I just run it as it is, it will not gonna work, because it will not gonna find the data provider. It is throwing some error. It requires a data provider with the name dp1, right. Now what I can do, I can write over here, that is data provider class equal to, and I can give this class name, that is data providers dot class, and that will make it work. So if I right click over here again, run as testng test, you're gonna see the data will be read from that particular data provider, right. This is how you can keep the data provider in any of the class, and you can call it with by giving these properties over here, data provider class and the data provider name. All right. Now this way, I can have multiple test cases over here, and all those test cases can either access the same data provider, or even they can access the multiple data providers. Now, if they are actually accessing the same data provider, right? So this data provider has 2 rows and 2 columns. So that is the reason we have 2 arguments over here with this test data. Now let's say if I go over here, if I just create a similar method over here, right? Let's say test data, test user registration, right? I'll rename it to test login, and rename it to test user registration, right? Now, while doing a user registration, it has a columns like first name, last name, and then email ID, right, like this. And I'll just write it over here. Plus email. Now it has 3 columns, right? But it is actually accessing the data provider, that is DP1. Now, when I run this, we're gonna definitely see some error over here with the second set of data. So the first got executed successfully, but with the second set of data, it is trying to pass 2 parameter, but the new login test user registration. So this method actually takes 3, right? So what we need to do, either we can create another data provider and name it as DP2, right? Either I can just copy this, create another data provider and name it as DP2 and get data2, right? And just change it to 2 rows and 3 columns. So here as well, I need to add one more column, and here as well, right? So it should be like this and this, right? So let's say first name is this, the second name is this, and then some email ID. Same way over here, and then some email ID, right? And I'll just pass the DP2 over here, right? Now if I run this as a test ng test, okay, I still got some error. It says required in class data provider. So haven't we added a name as DP2? Yes, we've already added it. So let's try running it once again. So I'll right click, run as test ng test. And yet yes, it did work. Yeah. So it read the data from the second data provider, and it reads the data from the first data provider. Now what if I want to have a same data provider for all test cases, but with different arguments, right? Let's say I want DP1 for this and DP1 for this as well, but this accepts 3 arguments and this accepts 2 arguments. Now, is it possible that we can have same data provider that should actually support different like arguments for different test cases? Yes, it is possible. I mean, this is achievable. How we can achieve it? Let's say I work on this data provider only, that is DP1. There is an overloaded argument to this method that we can say method M, right? Something like this. So this method will actually, on the runtime, it will actually gonna take the method from here. It will tell that if the method name is login, then give 2 arguments to this method. If it is user registration, then give 3 arguments to this method. As in, I can write over here, initially I can say object data equal to null, right? And I can say if m dot get name dot equals, and this m is basically the method name. So if the method name is equal to test login, and I can give over here test, if this is basically login, then it should actually create an object with 2 rows and 2 columns, right? And else, if this thing is equal to test user registration, then it should actually pass 3 set of data, right? And we can pass it here, and at the end it should actually return the data, right? So let us try running this. I can comment out the second data provider if you want. Now this is not required. So now you can see that different test cases will actually gonna access the same data provider, that is TP1, right? And all these test cases have different arguments. So let's run this and let's see, and you're gonna see that the very first test case, it accepted 2 arguments, the second one it accepts 3 arguments, and both of them got executed. So this is how we can have same data providers to work with different test cases having different arguments or different columns, you can say, right? And we'll make it work with only one data provider with the help of this overloaded method. All right. So that's all we have in the data provider section.